The desert is beautiful, vast, and silent. But in that silence, some places hold secrets that never fade. Ghost towns buried in sand, abandoned mines echoing the cries of the past. And stretches of highway where phantom vehicles appear without warning. Some deserts are home to spirits who refuse to rest, wandering endlessly under the scorching sun or the cold glow of the moon. Tonight, we explore 20 haunted desert locations in America that will make you think twice before venturing into the sand and dust alone. Deserts are often thought of as places of isolation and quiet beauty. But the silence of the desert can hide something far more sinister. Throughout the United States, deserts are dotted with abandoned towns, forgotten military sites, and places where travelers vanished without a trace. Visitors report ghostly figures, strange lights, sudden chills, and whispers carried by the wind across barren landscapes. Some deserts are haunted by tragic accidents, while others are cursed by the restless spirits of the past. Imagine walking through a deserted mining town. The wind whistles through broken windows, sand drifts over collapsed buildings, and the sun casts long shadows across empty streets. You hear faint voices, footsteps behind you, and the creak of something moving in the ruins. Is it just your imagination, or is something watching, waiting for you to make a mistake in the heat and silence of the desert? As we explore these 20 haunted desert locations, picture endless stretches of sand, abandoned structures, and the lingering presence of those who never left. Before we begin, ask yourself if you were alone in the middle of a desert and heard someone calling your name in the distance. Would you answer or run? Rhyolite, Nevada sits quietly in the vast expanse of the Mojave Desert. A ghost town that seems suspended in time. Once a bustling mining community, filled with hopeful prospectors, merchants, and families drawn to the promise of wealth. Today, the streets are empty. Buildings crumble under the relentless sun. And the wind sweeps dust across the remains of wooden structures and concrete ruins. The desert sun illuminates the town during the day, casting sharp shadows that stretch across the broken sidewalks. Yet as evening falls, Rhyolite transforms into a place of mystery and quiet tension. Visitors to Rhyolite often speak of a strange energy that permeates the ruins. Shadowy figures are sometimes glimpsed moving between structures, vanishing when approached or looked at directly. The air itself seems charged, carrying whispers that seem almost human but cannot be traced to any living source. Cold spots appear unexpectedly, chilling the skin despite the heat of the desert. These phenomena create an atmosphere in which the past feels present, and the stories of the people who once lived and worked here seem to linger in the very air. Walking through the remains of Rhyolite, it is easy to imagine the town as it once was. Wooden storefronts, a once grand bank, and scattered houses now lean and decay, yet they retain a sense of purpose and memory. Visitors report feeling watched in the quiet streets, a sensation that grows stronger as the sun dips behind the horizon and shadows lengthen. Footsteps echo where no one walks, and the soft creak of an old building settling can sound like distant voices conversing in the empty town. Every structure, from the skeletal remains of the train depot to the broken walls of the school, carries the weight of memory and absence. At night, the desert surrounding Rhyolite deepens the sense of isolation. The vast sky, punctuated by countless stars, contrasts with the grounded, crumbling town, emphasizing its solitude. Visitors have described hearing whispers that seem to drift across the sand, moving from one building to another, as if the town itself is communicating with the living. Cold drafts sweep through ruined doorways, chilling the air in ways that feel unnatural. The combination of silence, shadow, and subtle movement creates an immersive experience that is both unsettling and captivating. Rhyolite's history contributes heavily to its haunted atmosphere. The town rose rapidly on the promise of gold, attracting thousands. Yet it collapsed just as quickly when mines were depleted and the economy faltered. Many who called Rhyolite home left suddenly, leaving possessions behind. and creating a sense of abandonment that still resonates. This abrupt disappearance of life seems to have left a trace. A lingering echo of the excitement, toil, and disappointment that shaped the town. Visitors frequently report that walking through the streets feels like stepping into a memory, where the boundaries between past and present blur. Ghostly figures are most often seen in the areas where life would have been concentrated. The remains of the saloon, for example, sometimes appear to host fleeting shapes that move among the ruins, or faint outlines of people sitting where benches once stood. The bank and post office carry a heavier presence, as though the energy of commerce and communication has left a subtle imprint. Even the abandoned houses seem alive with movement in the corners of vision. Shadows that shift and fade as though replaying fragments of daily life from more than a century ago. The desert landscape amplifies the town's spectral quality. The wind whistles through broken windows and doorways, carrying sound across empty streets. Sand drifts along the sidewalks and into structures, covering the remnants of everyday life. In certain conditions, the combination of light, shadow, and wind can make a distant figure appear to move through the town, only to dissolve into the scenery moments later. These moments are fleeting but powerful, creating an experience that leaves a lasting impression on those who explore Rhyolite after dark. Visitors also report an eerie stillness in contrast to these sudden bursts of activity. The town seems both alive and frozen, holding on to its history in a way that is tangible yet intangible. The silence of empty streets is punctuated by the occasional creak of a wooden beam or the scrape of sand across stone. And these small sounds are magnified in the open desert. The effect is hypnotic, drawing attention to subtle changes in light and movement, and heightening awareness of the possibility that the town remembers its past inhabitants in ways the living cannot fully comprehend. Despite its desolation, Rhyolite continues to captivate those who visit. Photographers, historians, and curious travelers are drawn to its ruins, seeking to capture both the stark beauty of the desert and the haunting presence that seems to linger. Each building, each street, and each piece of debris contributes to the overall story, inviting reflection on human ambition, impermanence, and the enduring nature of memory. The ghostly figures, whispers, and cold spots are subtle yet unmistakable reminders that the town is more than an empty shell. It is a place where the past continues to interact with the present. As the sun sets behind the mountains and darkness spreads across the desert, the ruins stand as silent witnesses to history. Every shadow, every movement of the wind, and every unexplained chill becomes part of the story. Visitors leave with a sense of awe and quiet unease, carrying the memory of a town that was once alive with ambition, now preserved in time and spirit. Rhyolite, Nevada is more than a ghost town. It is a living testament to the impermanence of human endeavor. A place where history, mystery, and the unexplained converge under the desert sky. Once intended as a fertile recreational area, the lake became a place of mystery and melancholy, a landscape shaped by both nature and tragedy. The Salton Sea's dark history lingers in the air, a whispered promise of terrors yet to come. The lake at dusk takes on an otherworldly quality. As the sun dips below the horizon, the water reflects muted shades of red and gold, turning the shoreline into a liminal space where reality feels fragile. Along these shores, abandoned buildings and remnants of once thriving communities stand as silent witnesses. Some visitors report seeing figures moving along the water's edge, fleeting and ethereal, as if the past itself has not yet released its hold on the Salton Sea. At night, the lake transforms into a realm of strange phenomena. Unexplained lights flicker over the water, appearing and vanishing without pattern. These glimmers often float above the surface or dance along the horizon, leaving observers questioning what is real. Shadows of figures have been reported along the beach, sometimes pausing before vanishing into the darkness. The combination of still waters, desert silence, and these uncanny occurrences creates an atmosphere that is both mesmerizing and unsettling. The history of the Salton Sea is inseparable from its hauntings. The lake was formed accidentally in the early 20th century when irrigation canals overflowed, flooding the Salton Sink. Communities sprang up around its shores, drawn by the promise of recreation and fertile land, yet the environment proved unforgiving. Over time, the water became saline and polluted, and the area fell into decline. Those who vanished or drowned in its waters seem to linger in memory, their presence felt in whispers of wind and the glimmer of lights on the surface at night. Walking along the shoreline during the quiet hours, the air is heavy with a sense of stillness. Old docks creak under the weight of unseen footsteps. And sand along the waterline sometimes shifts as if recently disturbed. Visitors often describe a sudden chill, a sense of being observed. Or the fleeting glimpse of a figure in period clothing from decades past. These experiences are never violent, but they carry an undeniable weight. As though the Salton Sea itself remembers the lives and tragedies that have unfolded along its margins. The abandoned structures along the Lockia's edge amplify the sense of isolation. Once thriving hotels and homes now sit in decay. Their windows broken and walls weathered by time. Shadows are said to appear inside these buildings. Standing in doorways or along staircases. Moving only when no one is looking directly. The combination of decaying architecture and ghostly presence creates an environment that feels suspended between the living and the departed. A haunting tableau of history frozen in time. Even in daylight, the Salton Sea can feel surreal. The horizon stretches endlessly, and the shimmering water sometimes creates optical illusions that suggest movement or figures where none exist. The reflection of clouds and sun on the surface can transform the lake into a mirror, capturing shadows that seem to move independently. Those who have spent time observing the lake report a sense of unease, a feeling that the boundaries between reality and memory are thinner here than elsewhere. Stories of disappearances continue to shape the perception of the lake. Travelers along the surrounding roads have reported cars slowing inexplicably. Objects moving without explanation. And silhouettes appearing along the shoreline. These accounts are accompanied by a pervasive quiet. Broken only by the occasional rustle of wind through the desert scrub. The isolation of the area magnifies every sound and movement. And what might be dismissed elsewhere takes on significance here, lending the lake its haunting reputation. The wildlife of the Salton Sea adds to the atmosphere of desolation and wonder. Sometimes, the sudden movement of water or the flutter of wings creates shapes that resemble human forms, fleeting and indistinct. The Salton Sea remains a place where the past and present converge. Its waters hold the memory of those who lived, loved, and tragically vanished along its shores. The shifting sand and flickering lights all contribute to an environment that is as mysterious as it is haunting. For those who venture to this desert lake, the experience is unforgettable, a journey into a landscape where history lingers in the shadows. In every step along the shoreline, the Salton Sea tells its story. The ghostly figures, the unexplained lights, and the echoes of human experience are reminders that some places never fully release their past. The lake is a testament to the enduring power of memory, a place where tragedy and beauty coexist. And where every visitor becomes part of a narrative that continues to unfold beneath the shimmering surface and across the silent, haunting sands of this unique desert landscape. The Black Rock Desert in Nevada stretches endlessly beneath a wide sky, a vast expanse of arid flats and jagged hills that seem to dissolve into the horizon. This remote landscape, once home to early settlers and miners, now carries whispers of strange occurrences, drawing those curious about the unexplained and the unseen. Travelers who venture into this isolated region often speak of encounters that defy explanation, experiences that blur the line between reality and the spectral. Experiences that blur the line between reality and the spectral. The desert itself has a haunting beauty, flat and unyielding, punctuated by ridges and remnants of forgotten settlements. The skeletal outlines of old cabins and rusted tools speak to a history of hardship and fleeting prosperity, places where life once thrived but now seem suspended in time. Among these remnants, the stories of phantom vehicles and glowing figures begin to emerge, tales passed along by those who have felt the desert's eerie presence after dark. As night falls, the temperature drops sharply, and the vast emptiness becomes an almost palpable presence. The silence is interrupted only by the wind sweeping across the playa, yet travelers report hearing footsteps on the cracked earth where no one walks. Shadows stretch unnaturally under the moonlight, and fleeting glimpses of figures appear at the edge of vision, disappearing as quickly as they are noticed. The desert seems alive with memory, each grain of sand and each jagged stone holding traces of lives that have vanished into the landscape. Visitors have described seeing phantom vehicles moving slowly across the flats. Headlights appear without source, gliding silently over the salt-encrusted ground. Some claim these vehicles are echoes of the past, miners or settlers returning to places long abandoned. The glimmers of light and sudden movements create an otherworldly experience. As if the desert itself holds a thin veil between the present and something far older. In addition to these spectral apparitions, travelers have reported sounds that defy explanation. Faint whispers drift across the playa, sometimes joined by the distant clang of metal or the rhythmic beat of hooves. These sounds appear to come from nowhere, echoing off distant hills and fading into the emptiness, leaving an unsettling impression that someone or something is watching. The sense of isolation amplifies every sensation, every movement, making even the faintest sound feel deliberate, intentional. The old settlements scattered across the desert are particularly prone to unexplained phenomena. Ruins of wooden cabins creak as if settling under an unseen weight. And shadows seem to pass behind broken windows even when no one is inside. Visitors have felt sudden cold drafts near the remains of these structures. An incongruous chill in the midst of the desert's dry air. The combination of history, isolation, and the stark landscape contributes to an atmosphere that feels both timeless and haunted. Walking along the desert floor, one cannot escape the sensation of being watched. Figures have been reported on the horizon, standing motionless, vanishing upon approach. The terrain itself seems to play tricks on the mind, the moonlight casting shapes that twist and warp. Turning rocks into humanoid silhouettes and footprints into shifting patterns in the sand. The Black Rock Desert becomes a theater of mystery, where imagination and experience intertwine to create moments that are as compelling as they are unsettling. Travelers who venture during foggy or stormy nights often report the most vivid encounters. Mist rising from the playa blurs the line between land and sky. And glowing figures appear in the haze, drifting slowly across the flats. These forms are sometimes seen near the skeletal remains of old settlements or along the paths of former roads that have long since disappeared. Their movements are silent, deliberate, and strangely human, yet entirely unapproachable. Leaving observers with a mixture of awe and unease. Even in daylight, the desert carries a sense of its spectral history. The ruins remain, sun-bleached and empty, and yet they feel charged with the presence of those who once inhabited them. Travelers often describe an inexplicable heaviness in the air, a sense that the land remembers its past. The wind may carry faint echoes of conversation, the distant hum of activity, or a sudden, inexplicable silence that contrasts sharply with the emptiness of the landscape. The Black Rock Desert is more than a geographical location. It is a place where the ordinary rules of perception seem to bend. Phantom vehicles, glowing figures, whispers, and sudden chills create an immersive experience. Blending history, mystery, and the unknown into a tapestry that draws the curious and the brave. Each step across its salt flats is a step through layers of memory, legend, and the unexplained. Making the desert a destination not only of physical travel but of the imagination. Nightfall brings the desert's stories into sharper focus. Shadows lengthen, lights flicker, and the wind carries a voice from the past. Figures move just beyond sight, and those who remain still report sensations of presence, a quiet awareness of something beyond the tangible. The Black Rock Desert holds its secrets closely, offering glimpses of the spectral for those willing to walk its lonely expanse. It is a landscape where history and mystery intertwine, where the vanished of the past seem to walk once more among the living, and where every shadow, every whisper, every flicker of light invites visitors to question what is real and what lingers beyond the edge of perception. Where every shadow, every whisper, every flicker of light invites visitors to question what is real and what lingers beyond the edge of perception. And where every shadow, every whisper, every flicker of light invites visitors to question what is real and what lingers beyond the edge of perception. And where the vanished of the past seem to walk once more among the living, and where every shadow, every whisper, every flicker of light invites visitors to question what is real and what lingers beyond the edge of perception. And where every shadow, every whisper, every flicker of light invites visitors to question what is real and what lingers beyond the edge of perception. And where the vanished of the past seem to walk once more among the living, and where every shadow, every whisper, every flicker of light invites visitors to question what is real and what lingers beyond the edge of perception. In this vast and haunting expanse, the Black Rock Desert remains an enduring symbol of mystery. Its emptiness conceals countless stories. And for those who traverse its salt flats and old settlements, the experience is unforgettable. Phantom vehicles glide silently, glowing figures drift in the mist. And the sounds of unseen presences echo across the desert. It is a place where history, legend, and the unexplained converge, creating a cinematic, immersive journey that lingers long after the traveler leaves its lonely, haunting terrain. The Centralia Desert mines in Arizona stretch across a harsh, sun-scorched landscape, a remnant of a bygone era where miners once toiled beneath the earth in search of precious metals. Today, the mines stand silent, their rusted equipment and crumbling structures bathed in the relentless desert light. Yet beneath the apparent stillness, there is a lingering presence, a sense that the past has not entirely released its hold on this place. The ruins of the mining operations are scattered across the desert floor. Collapsed shafts and rusting carts bear witness to decades of activity and tragedy. Some explorers speak of cold drafts that cut through the dry desert heat, an unnatural chill that seems out of place among the sun-baked rock. Shadowy figures have been seen near abandoned equipment, moving with the deliberate pace of miners at work, only to vanish when approached. The air seems to hum with memories of labor and loss, as if the mines themselves retain the energy of those who never return to the surface. The history of the Centralia Desert mines is one marked by danger. Mining accidents were not uncommon, and many lives were lost beneath the desert sands. Explosions, collapses, and cave-ins left permanent marks on the landscape. And according to local lore, some of those who perished never left. Visitors sometimes hear the faint clinking of tools, the scrape of pickaxes against stone, or the rhythmic sound of footsteps echoing across empty corridors. These sounds are fleeting yet distinct, blending seamlessly with the natural noises of wind through the ruins, creating an eerie and immersive soundscape. The visual presence of the spectral miners adds to the chilling ambience. Figures in dusty overalls, faces obscured by helmets, move silently among rusting carts and timber supports. Others simply stand, staring across the desert, their expressions frozen in time. These apparitions appear most often near collapsed shafts or along the paths where miners once carried ore, suggesting that the energy of the past lingers in places of greatest toil and tragedy. Even the tools themselves seem to take on a life of their own. Visitors have reported objects shifting slightly when no one is nearby. Hammers tilting against beams, or carts rocking as if pushed by invisible hands. There is a pervasive sense that the environment here is alive with echoes of the past. Each creak and rattle amplifying the feeling of being watched. The combination of visual and auditory phenomena creates a landscape where the boundary between history and the present feels permeable. drawing visitors into the experience of the miner's world. The desert around Centralia adds to the sense of isolation and otherworldliness. Heat shimmers over the sand during the day, and at night, the temperature drops sharply, carrying a silence that feels heavy and expectant. The moon casts stark shadows across the ruins, elongating skeletal frameworks of buildings and tunnels, turning them into shapes that seem almost human in form. Travelers often describe a feeling of being observed, a subtle pressure in the air that seems to guide attention toward areas of greatest activity, as if the spirits of the mines are still guarding their territory. The mine's abandoned shafts and tunnels are particularly active in reports of paranormal activity. Those who venture near these openings describe an oppressive atmosphere, sudden chills, and the sensation of being followed. Faint lights sometimes flicker from within, resembling lanterns carried by unseen miners, and echoes of distant voices can carry across the desert, indistinguishable words that feel urgent and alive. Each encounter reinforces the idea that the mines retain a memory, a consciousness of the lives that were spent within them. Even the surrounding terrain plays a role in the haunting. Loose rocks tumble without cause. Gusts of wind swirl sand in unnatural patterns, and the stark desert vegetation seems to bend and shift, as though responding to unseen forces. Shadows gather in ways that defy explanation, stretching and moving along walls and pathways where no one is present. The experience is immersive, a blend of historical context and unexplained phenomena that transforms the Centralia desert mines from a deserted industrial site into a living, breathing testament to the miners' lives and the dangers they faced. Visitors to the mines report a range of sensations that cannot be easily explained. From sudden pressure on the chest to fleeting glimpses of figures in the corner of the eye, the encounters are subtle yet unsettling. Some are drawn by curiosity, others by a fascination with history, and many leave with the undeniable impression that the Centralia desert mines are more than a relic of industry. They are a place where human energy, tragedy, and memory converge, creating an environment that is at once beautiful, desolate, and haunting. As the sun sets and the desert cools, the ruins take on a spectral quality. Shadows lengthen, tools gleam faintly in the dim light, and the figures of miners appear clearer against the backdrop of crumbling structures. The atmosphere becomes thick with history, presence, and the stories of those who labored and perished here. Walking among the ruins is not merely a physical journey but an encounter with the echoes of lives shaped by labor, danger, and perseverance. Walking among the ruins is not merely a physical journey but an encounter with the echoes of lives shaped by labor, danger, and perseverance. The Centralia desert mines endure as a testament to human ambition and vulnerability. The abandoned shafts, rusted equipment, and scattered ruins hold more than metal and stone. They hold the memory of those who gave everything beneath the desert sun. Apparitions, spectral tools, and unexplained sounds remind visitors that the past is never truly gone. The mines are a place where history and the supernatural intersect, offering a haunting, immersive experience that connects the present with the labor, sacrifice, and lingering presence of miners, whose stories remain etched into the desert itself. Stovepipe Wells, California sits on the edge of Death Valley, an isolated outpost amid a vast and unforgiving desert. By day, the sun blazes across the sand and rock, casting harsh shadows and illuminating the barren landscape. The town itself is small, with structures that speak of decades of survival in extreme conditions. Yet as the sun begins to set, Stovepipe Wells transforms. The desert grows quiet, and a strange stillness settles over the streets and abandoned buildings. Visitors often sense that the place is more than it appears, a location where the line between the present and the past is blurred. Shadowy figures have been reported along the edges of the town at dusk. They move with a deliberate slowness, blending with the long shadows cast by the low sun. Some appear near abandoned buildings, lingering in doorways or just beyond the corners of vision. When approached, they vanish, leaving only the impression that something or something is watching. The effect is subtle but unsettling, a reminder that the desert has a way of holding memory, preserving traces of those who once passed through or lived in these harsh surroundings. The abandoned buildings of stovepipe wells add to its eerie atmosphere. Wooden beams creak with the slightest breeze. Windows rattle. And floors settle with sounds that echo unnaturally. Visitors have reported hearing footsteps in these spaces. Soft and deliberate, as if someone is pacing the empty rooms. Occasionally, faint whispers carry through the air. Impossible to locate, yet distinct enough to make a person pause and listen. These phenomena create an experience where the environment itself seems alive with remnants of past lives. The desert landscape surrounding the town enhances this sense of mystery. Dunes rise and fall like waves frozen in time, and jagged rock formations cast long shadows that shift with the movement of the sun. At night, the vast sky stretches endlessly, stars shining brilliantly, while the land below becomes a canvas of darkness and shadow. The combination of isolation, open space, and the history embedded in the buildings and streets contributes to the perception that Stovepipe Wells is a place where the past is never far away. Visitors often describe sudden shifts in temperature as they explore. A hot, dry wind might be replaced in an instant by a cold draft that chills the skin despite the desert heat. These changes are often accompanied by sensations of being watched or the fleeting impression of movement in the corners of vision. Even without visible figures, the air carries an almost tangible tension, a subtle reminder that the town is steeped in decades of human activity and memory. Some of the most persistent reports occur near the town's oldest structures. Figures are sometimes seen moving inside these buildings, their forms indistinct but unmistakably human in shape. Witnesses often leave these areas with a heightened awareness, their senses attuned to even the smallest details of sound and shadow. The soft echo of footsteps follows along hallways and creaking floors, while the occasional flicker of light suggests movement where none should exist. The occasional flicker of light suggests movement where none should exist. Witnesses often leave these areas with a heightened awareness, their senses attuned to even the smallest details of sound and shadow. The soft echo of footsteps follows along hallways and creaking floors, while the occasional flicker of light suggests movement where none should exist. Abandoned houses and old stores near the town's oldest structures seem to harbor the most activity. The history of Stovepipe Wells contributes heavily to its reputation. Established as a way station for travelers in and around Death Valley, the town has witnessed countless arrivals and departures, hardships, and survival stories. People who lived and worked here endured extreme temperatures, isolation, and the constant threat of Naturia's unforgiving power. These hardships, preserved in the land and buildings, seem to manifest in the ghostly phenomena described by modern visitors. The experiences feel like echoes of lives once lived, replaying in subtle but tangible ways. Fog and desert mist are rare but impactful occurrences. When they descend, the town transforms, softening edges and obscuring details. Sounds, whether footsteps or distant whispers, are amplified and carry unnaturally far. The effect is immersive, drawing attention to every small movement, every subtle change in the environment. Even those familiar with the town report feeling a sense of disorientation and heightened awareness during these moments. Stovepipe Wells is a place where isolation heightens perception. The desert amplifies small sounds, and the emptiness of the streets makes every movement significant. Visitors walking alone in the evening often sense a presence just beyond sight. A shadow that flits past a doorway or along a wall. These experiences are brief but memorable, leaving an impression that the town retains a memory of its past inhabitants. A subtle energy that lingers in the air, watching, listening, and waiting. The combination of natural beauty, harsh history, and reported phenomena makes Stovepipe Wells a unique location. Its open desert, abandoned buildings, and quiet streets create an atmosphere of mystery and reflection. Every shadow, every echo, and every subtle movement contributes to a sense of history intertwined with the present. Reminding visitors that the town is more than it seems. Where the desert holds secrets, where echoes of the past are felt as much as seen, and where the living encounter the lingering presence of those who came before. As night deepens over the desert and the wind sweeps through the streets. The old buildings, sandy paths, and distant cliffs carry stories that are both beautiful and haunting. Visitors leave with a sense of awe, aware that the town is not simply a dot on the map, but a location where history, mystery, and the unexplained converge. The desert speaks softly. Shadows move silently. And the past refuses to remain forgotten. Randsburg, California rises from the harsh desert landscape like a relic from another era, a town frozen in time yet alive with stories that refuse to fade. Once a booming mining settlement, the streets still echo with the footsteps of those who lived, loved, and often met untimely ends in the unforgiving desert. The town carries a reputation for gunfights, mysterious deaths, and a restless history that lingers long after the sun sets. As twilight descends, the desert air cools and the town transforms. The main street, lined with weathered wooden buildings, takes on an uncanny stillness. Shadows stretch across the ground, and some visitors claim to see figures walking along the sidewalks, moving deliberately as if retracing steps from a bygone era. These apparitions are rarely threatening, yet their presence leaves an unmistakable chill, a reminder that Randsburg's past has not completely surrendered to time. The old saloons, once centers of rowdy activity, are often the backdrop for strange encounters. Doors creak open with no one in sight. And faint echoes of laughter drift through the empty rooms. Patrons from a century ago seem to linger in the corners. Their figures vanish when approached. The scent of dust and old wood mingles with the desert wind, creating a tangible connection between the present and the spectral remnants of the past. Walking down the narrow streets, one notices the flicker of movement in the corners of the eye. Some describe seeing men in period attire standing near the storefronts, watching silently before disappearing into the shadows. Childrena's laughter, sharp and fleeting, has been reported near the old general store, though the streets are empty. These glimpses are fleeting, yet they carry a weight, a suggestion that the town holds on to memories of its former inhabitants in ways both subtle and unmistakable. The surrounding desert amplifies the sense of isolation. Wind sweeps through the town, whistling past abandoned buildings and rusted mining equipment. The noise carries an eerie resonance, and it is in this quiet that many visitors feel the most presence. Footsteps echo across wooden sidewalks, sometimes matching their own, only to vanish when looked at directly. The desert seems alive with the spirits of miners and townsfolk, bound to a place where life was hard and often short. Even during the day, the town holds a spectral quality. Sunlight glances off the wooden facades, casting long shadows that suggest figures just out of reach. Visitors have reported a sense of being observed, a sensation that does not fade when leaving the town. Randsburg has a way of imprinting itself on the imagination, where every alley, every weathered sign, and every shuttered window becomes a potential stage for the unseen. The stories of gunfights and sudden deaths contribute to the town's haunted atmosphere. In the late 1800s, disputes over claims and grudges sometimes ended in violence, leaving behind histories that refuse to stay buried. Ghostly figures are often seen near the sites of old shootouts, standing silently as if waiting for something that never came. Their presence is not malevolent but undeniably poignant, a reminder of the lives abruptly ended and the unresolved echoes of the past. Evenings in Randsburg bring a different kind of spectacle. Desert heat fades, leaving cool, crisp air. The sky darkens, revealing an expanse of stars unmarred by city lights. The sky darkens, revealing an expanse of stars unmarred by city lights. It is then that many of the reported sightings occur. It is then that many of the reported sightings occur. Shadows move along the streets, figures appear near old windows, and the faintest sounds of footsteps, murmurs, the creak of swinging doors fill the night. Shadows move along the streets, figures appear near old windows, and the faintest sounds of footsteps, murmurs, the creak of swinging doors fill the night. Figures appear near old windows, and the faintest sounds of footsteps, murmurs, the creak of swinging doors fill the night. The faintest sounds of footsteps, murmurs, the creak of swinging doors fill the night. The town becomes a living museum of its own history, where the line between the living and the dead seems almost imperceptible. The town becomes a living museum of its own history, where the line between the living and the dead seems almost imperceptible. Visitors often speak of a strange comfort amid the unease. The ghosts of Randsburg are not aggressive, they are remnants, echoes of lives once fully lived. Some linger near their homes, others along the streets they walk daily. The town holds on to these memories, preserving them in the flicker of a shadow, the sway of a broken sign, or the whisper of the wind. Each encounter leaves an impression, a story woven into the fabric of the town that persists long after footsteps fade. Randsburg stands as a testament to the enduring presence of history. Its streets, buildings, and surrounding desert are more than relics. They are a living archive of lives marked by struggle, resilience, and the unexpected. The figures that appear, the sounds that linger, and the chilling sense of presence all serve to remind those who wander here that some places never release their past. The town remains suspended between eras, a desert ghostscape where the stories of miners, townsfolk, and forgotten travelers continue to move unseen, waiting for those willing to notice and listen to the whispers of Randsburg's enduring spirit. The Mojave Desert in California stretches endlessly beneath a vast sky, a landscape of jagged mountains, rolling dunes, and abandoned settlements. A place of stark beauty, where the harshness of the desert has shaped both the land and the legends that inhabit it. Among these legends are the tales of ghostly travelers and unexplained phenomena that have haunted the highways and ghost towns of the Mojave for decades. Highways cut across the desert like ribbons of asphalt, often empty for miles, bordered by nothing but sand and the silhouettes of distant peaks. Drivers traveling these isolated stretches have reported seeing lights in the distance, small and flickering at first, then growing brighter as if moving toward them. Yet when approached, these lights vanish, leaving the observer alone in the stillness of the desert night. The ghost towns of the Mojave hold an even deeper sense of mystery. Once bustling with miners, traders, and settlers, these abandoned settlements now stand as skeletal reminders of lives long past. The wooden structures creak under the weight of history, doors swing in the wind with no one to move them. Shadowy figures have been seen moving through the ruins, disappearing when approached. Visitors speak of a strange heaviness in the air, a sensation that the desert itself remembers those who once called it home. As night falls, the temperature drops sharply, and the silence of the desert becomes almost tangible. The wind carries an eerie quality, whispering across the dunes and through the rusting metal of abandoned vehicles. Travelers have reported hearing footsteps along empty roads, the sound echoing in the stillness, only to find no one there. Shapes appear at the edge of vision, fleeting and indistinct, as if the desert itself is playing with perception. Some say these apparitions are the echoes of those who perished in the harsh environment, travelers and settlers. Travelers and settlers whose stories ended abruptly in the unforgiving sands. These mysterious occurrences have been witnessed by multiple travelers, each with their own account, creating a tapestry of experiences. That suggests the Mojave is more than a landscapia, it is a living, breathing witness to history and legend. In the abandoned towns, the desert seems to hold its own memories. Wooden floors creak under invisible footsteps, and the shadows of long-gone residents appear in doorways or near broken windows. Cold spots seem to form in certain areas, the chill and unexpected contrast to the desert heat, hinting at something beyond the natural world. Faint voices have been reported, whispers of conversation drifting across empty streets, as if the past is reaching out to the present. Travelers who venture into the Mojave at night often speak of an overwhelming sense of solitude. Every light in the distance, every sound carried by the wind, becomes magnified in the emptiness. Figures have been seen along the highways, standing silently by the roadside or crossing in front of cars, only to vanish without a trace. These shadowy forms are sometimes mistaken for hitchhikers or passing travelers, yet they are fleeting and ethereal, leaving those who encounter them questioning what they saw. The desert's vast open spaces and rugged terrain amplify the sensation of the unexplained. Moonlight casts long shadows that twist and warp across the sand, creating shapes that resemble figures. It is a place where imagination and reality intertwine, where every flicker of light or sudden movement can feel charged with mystery. Even during the day, the Mojave Desert maintains its haunting presence. The remains of old settlements stand stark against the horizon, sun-bleached and empty, yet filled with a sense of lingering life. Visitors often report feelings of unease or anticipation, a subtle awareness that the desert holds secrets just beyond perception. Fog and heat haze can distort the landscape, making figures appear along ridges or dunes, moving silently against the vast emptiness. Some claim these are spirits of travelers who perished, their energy bound to the desert, retracing steps they never completed. Others suggest the phenomena are the result of the desert's natural tricks, optical illusions and echoes of sound amplified across the open land. Regardless, the effect is undeniably there is a sense of life beyond what the eye can see. The Mojave Desert remains a place of legend and intrigue, where highways stretch into isolation, and ghost towns whisper their histories to those willing to listen. Phantom vehicles, shadowy figures, unexplained lights, and eerie sounds create an immersive experience, blending history and mystery in a cinematic, almost otherworldly setting. The desert is both beautiful and haunting. A landscape where the past lingers, and the unexplained is always just beyond the edge of perception. For travelers who seek the unusual, the Mojave offers more than empty highways and sand. It offers encounters with the unknown, a chance to witness phenomena that defy explanation, and an opportunity to feel the desert's weight of memory and mystery. Each step, each mile, brings the sense that something is watching. Something that has always been there, waiting silently for the night to fall. And an opportunity to feel the desert's weight of memory and mystery. Each step, each mile, brings the sense that something is watching, something that has always been there, waiting silently for the night to fall and the stories to awaken once more. In the Mojave Desert, California, the ordinary and the extraordinary coexist. Highway lights flicker, ghostly figures drift across empty roads, and abandoned towns seem alive with history. It is a place where time, memory, and the unexplained converge, creating an unforgettable landscape of mystery and intrigue, and inviting all who pass through to wonder what truly lies hidden in the vast expanse of sand and shadow. Oatman, Arizona rests on the edge of the desert, a town frozen in time where the echoes of the Old West still linger. Once a bustling mining settlement, it thrived on gold and the rough lives of miners, outlaws, and frontier settlers. Today, its wooden sidewalks and weathered storefronts evoke a bygone era, and some visitors claim that the town's storied past refuses to stay buried. Among the narrow streets and sun-bleached buildings, there are whispers of ghostly figures and echoes of violence that once defined life here. Oatman, Arizona rests on the edge of the desert, a town frozen in time where the echoes of the Old West still linger. Walking through the main street, it is easy to imagine the sounds of a thriving frontier town, the clatter of boots on wooden planks, the jangle of spurs, and the distant shouts of miners returning from the hills. Yet, in the quiet moments, some visitors report hearing something more unsettling. The sudden crack of a gunshot in an empty alley, the flash of a shadowy figure disappearing around a corner, or the faint sound of voices speaking in hurried tones. These sensations are fleeting but vivid, leaving a lasting impression on those who encounter them. The town's alleys and side streets hold the most concentrated reports of paranormal activity. Figures dressed in period clothing appear and vanish in the blink of an eye. A visitor walking alone may suddenly feel a presence beside them, only to find no one there when they turn. Some describe seeing the silhouettes of men in wide-brimmed hats, brandishing weapons as if caught in an endless gunfight. These apparitions often manifest near old saloons, abandoned stores, and buildings that were once the sites of confrontations and lawless encounters. The atmosphere in Oatman shifts as the sun dips behind the mountains. Shadows stretch across the wooden facades of buildings. And the desert wind carries a subtle sense of anticipation. As though the town itself remembers the turmoil of its past. Visitors often speak of chills that appear without warning. Especially near the old jail or along streets where historic conflicts occurred. Some claim to hear the shuffle of boots and faint laughter. The echoes of a community that once thrived on gold, grit, and danger. Even in the daytime, Oatman retains a peculiar energy. Tourists may notice inexplicable movements in their peripheral vision. Doors creaking when no wind blows. Or objects slightly shifted from where they left them. The old buildings seem to breathe with the memories of their inhabitants. And the atmosphere carries the weight of lives lived on the edge. The stories told by locals of encounters with ghostly outlaws or miners lend credence to the idea that this town is not entirely abandoned, even if the living are few. The desert surrounding Oatman adds to its eerie charm. The rugged mountains and arid landscape create natural corridors where sound travels and shadows linger. Faint noises from the hills can be interpreted as whispers or warnings from the past. And the long stretches of open road enhance the feeling of isolation. Travelers often describe a heightened sense of awareness here. As if every step might awaken a memory left behind by those who came before. At night, the town transforms into a scene from another century. Gas lamps cast long, flickering shadows. And the streets take on a haunting stillness. Visitors have reported seeing figures on rooftops. Men and women frozen in time. Staring into the darkness. The silhouettes of horses and wagons sometimes appear on the edges of memory. Vanishing when approached. The quiet is punctuated by sudden, inexplicable sounds. The rattle of a gate. The distant jingle of spurs. Or the echo of hurried footsteps along deserted boardwalks. Oatman's haunted history is closely tied to the gold rush and the lawlessness of the frontier. Shootouts, robberies, and the relentless pursuit of wealth left an imprint on both the town and its land. Many of the ghostly figures reported are believed to be echoes of miners, outlaws, and townsfolk who lived and died here, their energy lingering long after the buildings fell into disuse. Each encounter reinforces the sense that Oatman is a living memory of the past, where history and the supernatural converge. Visitors describe the town as immersive, a place where imagination and reality blend seamlessly. The wind carries the scent of old wood and desert dust. Footsteps echo unnaturally across empty streets. And the air feels thick with unseen activity. Each corner turned, each doorway entered, has the potential to reveal a glimpse of history come to life. A fleeting reminder of the town's lawless and vibrant origins. The town is a place where imagination and reality blend seamlessly. The stories of Oatman's hauntings continue to draw curious travelers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Ghostly gunfights, sudden apparitions, and the palpable presence of those long gone make this town a unique destination for those seeking more than just scenery. It is a place where the past feels present, where the spirits of miners and outlaws linger in the streets they once walked, and where every shadow and whisper invites the visitor to explore deeper into the story of the Old West. Oatman, Arizona stands as a testament to history preserved in both structure and spirit. The wooden sidewalks, sun-bleached buildings, and narrow alleys do more than evoke nostalgia. They serve as conduits for the memories and energy of a town shaped by fortune, danger, and human ambition. The ghostly encounters reported here are part of an immersive tapestry that allows visitors to step into another time, feeling the pulse of a community that, though largely silent today, continues to echo across the desert, alive in memory, shadow, and story. Desert Center, California sits isolated in the heart of the Colorado Desert, a place where the horizon stretches endlessly and the sun casts harsh light across barren land. The town itself is sparse, dotted with abandoned structures that speak of a past shaped by military operations and industrial activity. By day, the desert seems unyielding, silent but for the occasional wind sweeping across the sand and gravel. Yet as the sun dips toward the horizon, Desert Center transforms, revealing an atmosphere that is heavy with history and mystery. Visitors often describe a sense of unease when exploring the empty buildings and deserted roads. Apparitions have been seen moving among the abandoned industrial sites, shadowy figures that appear just beyond the edge of vision before fading into the darkness. Faint, unexplained voices drift through empty hallways, carrying a resonance that seems to come from the very walls. Sudden chills touch the skin, an unexpected contrast to the desert heat, leaving a reminder that the energy of the past may still linger in these spaces. The architecture of Desert Center adds to its haunting presence. Concrete and metal structures, once bustling with activity, now stand weathered and silent. Rust-stained streak walls, windows are broken or missing entirely, and doors creak in the wind. Each building seems to hold a memory, a trace of the people who once moved through its halls and the work that defined the area. Even the simplest act of walking through these spaces can feel like stepping back in time, with every sound amplified by the emptiness surrounding the visitor. The desert itself shapes the experience of the town. Rocky outcroppings, rolling dunes, and sparse vegetation frame the buildings, creating long shadows that stretch with the movement of the sun. The isolation intensifies the sensation that one is not alone, and that the history of Desert Center continues to assert itself in subtle yet perceptible ways. The military and industrial history of the town contributes to its enigmatic atmosphere. During its active years, the area supported operations and workers who endured the extreme heat, isolation, and demands of industrial life. Abandoned bunkers, storage facilities, and remnants of infrastructure serve as silent witnesses to these activities. Visitors report that the energy of human labor and dedication seems preserved in the very structures, occasionally manifesting as fleeting shadows or the sensation of being observed. Reports of paranormal activity are most often centered around these abandoned structures. Visitors have described seeing figures walking through hallways, or appearing in peripheral vision near rusted machinery and decaying walls, as if retracing familiar routes. Yet they remain elusive, vanishing when approached. Whispered sounds, faint and difficult to locate, are often reported inside these buildings, as if voices from the past are carrying on despite the absence of living witnesses. Desert Center's barren surroundings intensify the experience. The desert sun fades to deep orange and purple, and the temperature drops sharply, accentuating the contrast between heat and sudden cold spots. Shadows lengthen and merge with the outlines of abandoned structures, creating the illusion of movement even where none exists. Visitors often report heightened awareness, noticing subtle sounds and shifts in the environment that might otherwise go unnoticed. Every creak, every wind-blown object, feels charged with meaning, contributing to the town's mysterious energy. The natural elements interact with the man-made ruins to produce moments of disorientation and awe. Rusted metal reflects fading light, and broken glass glimmers like frozen fire. In these conditions, even small movements are amplified, and the mind searches for explanations, often finding only ambiguity. The combination of isolation, history, and environmental factors makes Desert Center a uniquely immersive location. Visitors often describe an unshakable sense of presence, an awareness that someone or something is observing. Footsteps echo where none should exist. And faint voices seem to come from empty rooms. The interactions are subtle but memorable, leaving the impression that the town holds onto the energy of its past, preserving fragments of human experience in the very air and stone. The town becomes more than an abandoned settlement. It becomes a space where the boundary between history and the unexplained is thin, where memory and spirit converge. The enduring appeal of Desert Center lies in its combination of stark beauty and haunting history. The desert landscape, abandoned buildings, and reports of unexplained phenomena create an atmosphere that is both compelling and unsettling. Visitors leave with a heightened awareness of time, place, and the persistence of human presence in the spaces we occupy. Desert Center is a reminder that even in the emptiest and most desolate places, echoes of the past remain, whispering to those willing to listen. As night falls over the desert, the town becomes a silhouette against the star-filled sky. The wind whispers across the empty streets, and shadows stretch long and indistinct. Desert Center endures, a testament to history, mystery, and the subtle presence of those who came before. Every building, every deserted road, and every shifting shadow holds a story, a lingering trace of lives once lived, and a quiet reminder that some places never fully release the past. Rhyolite Cemetery rests quietly on the outskirts of the ghost town, a silent testament to a community that once thrived in the harsh Nevada desert. The air is heavy with history, a palpable sense of lives lived and lost in a place that now seems abandoned yet not entirely empty. As dusk falls, the cemetery takes on a new life. Shadows stretch across the sandy ground, and the contours of the graves become more pronounced under the fading light. Visitors often report a chilling sensation, a feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Some claim to see figures moving between the stones, indistinct at first, then more defined as the darkness deepens. These shadowy forms are said to wander without purpose, as if retracing the steps of the town's former residents. The ghost town of Rhyolite looms nearby, its crumbling buildings whispering tales of boom and bust. Families who once lived in the town now lie beneath the sand, their resting places scattered across the dusty landscape. The wind carries faint murmurs, almost like conversations interrupted and carried over time, blending with the rustle of dry leaves and the distant call of desert wildlife. Visitors walking through the cemetery describe a surreal atmosphere. The desert sun sinks below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows. Headstones appear to shift in the corner of the eye. And for a moment, one might feel the presence of someone standing just beyond sight. These encounters are subtle, often fleeting, yet they leave an indelible impression. A reminder that Rhyolite's past is never truly gone. The night amplifies the sense of the supernatural. The moon casts silvery light over the gravestones, highlighting the textures of cracked stone and weathered inscriptions. Figures in old-fashioned clothing are sometimes glimpsed, moving slowly between the graves before vanishing into the darkness. Some visitors report hearing footsteps crunching on gravel, though the paths are empty. The wind carries faint whispers that seem almost human in origin. There is a solemn beauty in the cemetery's desolation. Rusted fences enclose sections of graves, leaning under the weight of time. And wild desert plants grow unchecked, weaving through the cracks and crevices. The environment feels suspended between eras, where the boundary between the living and the dead blurs. Each shadow, each sound, seems to carry fragments of memories. Remnants of people who built their lives here and whose presence lingers long after their departure. Rhyolite Cemetery also holds stories of tragedy and loss. Many of those buried here died young, victims of disease, accidents, and the harsh realities of life in a remote mining town. Their spirits, according to local lore, remain tethered to the place, wandering among the markers of their final resting places. Ghostly figures are not always sinister, they often appear reflective, silent, as if guarding the memories of the community that once existed. The desert amplifies every sensation. A sudden gust of wind can carry the faint sound of laughter or murmured names. And the darkness seems to thicken with every step. Visitors often feel a presence walking alongside them, close yet intangible. The feeling lingering long after leaving the cemetery grounds. In this way, Rhyolite Cemetery functions as a bridge between the living and the past. A place where history is not only remembered but actively experienced. Even in daylight, the cemetery exudes a haunting charm. Sunlight glances off weathered stones, casting strange, shifting shadows that suggest movement. The silence is profound, broken only by the occasional call of a desert bird or the soft crunch of footsteps on sand. Each element, from the leaning headstones to the distant silhouette of Rhyolite itself, contributes to the sense of timelessness, where the stories of those long gone are never truly forgotten. Rhyolite Cemetery remains one of Nevada's most atmospheric and evocative sites. Its ghostly presence is subtle yet undeniable, a living memory of a town that rose and fell in the unforgiving desert. For those who walk its paths, it is impossible not to feel the weight of history, the touch of shadows, and the lingering echo of lives once fully lived. Every step, every glance, becomes part of a narrative that spans generations. A reminder that even in places abandoned by the living, the past endures. Quietly moving among the graves, keeping watch over the stories etched into stone and sand. The cemetery's haunting is not just in what is seen, but in what is felt. The sense of connection to those who came before. The subtle movements in the corner of the eye. And the whispers carried on the wind combine to create an experience that is both eerie and profoundly moving. Rhyolite Cemetery is a place where history and the supernatural converge. Offering a window into the lives, struggles, and enduring presence of a community that continues to inhabit the desert long after its physical structures have crumbled. In the quiet of night, with stars overhead and the desert stretching endlessly in every direction, Rhyolite Cemetery becomes a stage for the unseen. Figures move among the graves, whispers linger in the wind. And the desert itself seems alive with memory. Visitors leave with more than stories, they leave with a sense of having stepped into another time. A place where the past is never truly gone, and the spirits of Rhyolite remain vigilant, wandering among the stones, guarding the legacy of a town that refused to be forgotten. Calico Ghost Town, nestled in the arid desert of California, stands as a relic of the silver mining boom that once promised fortune and prosperity. The town flourished in the late 19th century, its streets bustling with miners, merchants, and families seeking a new life. Today, the wooden structures and weathered facades remain as echoes of a past long gone, yet visitors speak of something more than history lingering among the ruins. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the empty streets, the wind whispers through the skeletal buildings, carrying faint sounds that resemble laughter and footsteps. Some say these are the remnants of the town's original inhabitants, spirits caught between the life they once knew and the silence that now dominates Calico. Visitors report seeing figures moving between the old saloons and mining shacks. Miners, covered in dust and grime, appear as shadows of their former selves, trudging through streets as though still on their way to work. Children, dressed in the simple clothing of a bygone era, are said to run along the narrow paths, their laughter echoing in the empty corridors of time. Yet when approached, these apparitions vanish, leaving only the desolate landscape and the whispering wind. The mines themselves hold a particular allure for those intrigued by the unexplained. Rusted equipment and abandoned tools hint at the labor and toil that defined the town, while the darkness within the mine entrances seems to pulse with a quiet, unnatural presence. Some visitors describe cold drafts that cut through the desert heat, sudden chills that have no natural cause, and the sensation of being watched by eyes unseen. Calico's streets tell stories beyond the obvious. The old general store, with its cracked windows and dusty shelves, has been the site of reported activity for decades. Shadows appear to move along the walls, and objects have been found in different positions from where they were left. Lights flicker inexplicably in the windows. And faint sounds of conversation can be heard in the empty night. The town, though silent to the casual observer, seems alive to those sensitive to its hidden energy. Even the desert itself contributes to the town's haunting quality. As night falls, the temperature drops and the darkness deepens, heightening the senses and sharpening perception. Travelers report that the isolation amplifies every creak of wood, every rustle of wind, creating an atmosphere in which the veil between past and present feels thin. Several structures are said to be focal points for paranormal activity. The old hotel, where weary travelers once sought rest, is known for sudden cold spots. And the fleeting impression of figures walking the hallways. The saloon, once filled with raucous music and laughter, now holds a quieter sort of life. With shadows glimpsed in doorways and faint sounds of footsteps on wooden floors. Even the small church, long abandoned, is rumored to echo with ghostly hymns in the late hours of the night. Stories passed down through generations add to the lore of Calico. Locals recount tales of miners who never returned from the depths of the mines. And children who vanished without explanation. Some believe the spirits of these lost souls linger, retracing steps and replaying moments of their former lives. Others suggest the desert itself, harsh and relentless, holds on to the memories of those who endured its challenges. Embedding their presence in the town's empty streets and crumbling buildings. Visitors often describe a mixture of fascination and unease. Walking through the town after dark, every shadow seems alive. Every sound carries a story, and every corner hides a possibility. The mind senses movement even when eyes cannot confirm it. And the imagination blends with reality to create a cinematic experience unique to Calico. Those who linger past sunset feel an undeniable presence. A connection to lives that once filled the town with purpose and vitality. Calico Ghost Town is more than a historical site. It is a living memory, a place where the echoes of labor, laughter, and loss mingle with the desert wind. Miners, children, and townsfolk of long ago appear and disappear, their stories woven into the very fabric of the town, creating a haunting yet compelling narrative that draws the curious and the brave alike. For those who visit, Calico offers an experience that transcends ordinary exploration. It is a journey into history and legend, a step into a space where the past meets the present. And where the unexplained becomes a vivid, immersive part of the landscape. Every creaking door, every flicker of movement, and every whisper in the wind reinforces the notion that Calico Ghost Town is not merely abandoned, it is watched, remembered, and alive with stories that continue to unfold long after the last rays of sunlight have disappeared behind the desert hills. In the end, Calico Ghost Town stands as a testament to the lives once lived, the dreams pursued, and the mysteries that endure. It is a place where history, memory, and the supernatural converge, offering a hauntingly beautiful experience for all who walk its empty streets and listen to the whispers carried by the desert night. Furnace Creek, California sits deep within the vast expanse of Death Valley, a landscape both awe-inspiring and unforgiving. The sun beats down relentlessly during the day, and the desert stretches endlessly in every direction, a sea of sand, rock, and wind-sculpted ridges. Despite its striking beauty, this harsh environment has long been a place where travelers have faced danger, and the stories of those who vanished here have become part of the region's mysterious legacy. Driving along the desolate roads, it is easy to sense the isolation that has shaped Furnace Creek. The silence is profound, broken only by the whisper of the wind or the distant rattle of rocks shifting under unseen weight. Yet among the barren vistas, some visitors have reported phenomena that defy explanation. These lights hover or dart across the desert, appearing in the dead of night when the valley is otherwise lifeless. The spectral figures of lost travelers are another aspect of Furnace Creek's haunted reputation. Hikers and motorists alike have described seeing shapes along the road or moving through the sand, silhouettes that vanish when approached. Some appear to be wandering aimlessly, while others seem to observe silently from a distance, as if caught between the world of the living and the vast, eternal desert. These figures are often reported near old mining routes or abandoned trails, areas where the desert has claimed lives over the decades. Visitors frequently speak of sudden chills, inexplicable movements in the periphery of vision, and the feeling of being watched even when completely alone. The desert's natural isolation amplifies every sensation, transforming ordinary encounters into deeply unsettling experiences. The wind itself seems to carry whispers that may be echoes of past travelers. The sound of footsteps that vanish as soon as one listens more closely. Furnace Creek's harsh environment has historically been a place of survival and danger. Prospectors, settlers, and wanderers traversed its arid expanses, often underestimating the desert's extreme heat and treacherous terrain. Many who entered were never seen again, their stories fading into the sands. It is said that the energy of these lost souls lingers, manifesting as fleeting apparitions or ghostly lights that appear without warning, reminders of the unforgiving nature of this landscape. The roads themselves seem imbued with a quiet, persistent tension. Long stretches of asphalt wind through the valley, offering little shelter and no landmarks for miles. Some travelers have reported the sudden appearance of figures standing in the distance, only to vanish when they approach. Others describe seeing shadows moving across the sand as though someone or something is following, always just out of reach. The combination of vast openness and these eerie experiences creates a profound sense of unease that visitors cannot easily shake. Nightfall transforms Furnace Creek into an otherworldly place. Darkness spreads across the desert, and the stars overhead shine with a brilliance that is both beautiful and isolating. This is when many of the most striking phenomena are reported. Phantom lights glide across the horizon, footsteps echo in empty stretches, and shadowy figures appear along the roadside. Even experienced travelers find themselves hesitating, unsure whether the sensations they feel are the desert's tricks or something more supernatural. Abandoned mining equipment, weathered buildings, and deserted trail markers add to the sense of history lingering in the landscape. These remnants of human activity serve as silent witnesses to the many lives that have passed through Furnace Creek, some ending tragically. Visitors often report that these areas are particularly active, with cold spots, sudden gusts of wind, and fleeting figures moving among the ruins. It is as if the land itself remembers the struggles of those who dared to enter its vast, unforgiving embrace. Despite the harsh environment, Furnace Creek continues to attract adventurers. Each encounter with the unexplained leaves a lasting impression. A reminder that the desert holds secrets that are impossible to fully uncover. The combination of historical tragedy, isolation, and persistent tales of the supernatural gives Furnace Creek a unique energy, one that captivates the imagination and challenges the senses. The desert is alive with memory. Every ridge, dune, and winding road carries echoes of the past. Some believe that the lights and figures seen along Furnace Creek's roads are manifestations of those who never completed their journeys, souls still wandering, searching, or observing. Others think the desert itself holds an energy that projects images and sensations, a force born from centuries of human struggle against its merciless environment. Furnace Creek stands as a place of stark contrasts. Its beauty is undeniable, but its history and ongoing reports of paranormal activity remind all who enter that this is a land where the boundary between the living and the lost is delicate and often blurred. Travelers leave with more than photographs and memories. They carry the impression of a place that is simultaneously majestic, haunting, and timeless. The desert winds continue to sweep across Furnace Creek, shaping the land and whispering the stories of those who came before. Phantom lights appear and fade, figures move through the sand unseen. And the roads remain desolate, yet filled with history. Furnace Creek is a testament to the enduring power of memory and mystery, a place where the past lingers in every shadow, every gust of wind, and every glimmer of light across the endless desert. Inviting the living to witness the stories that the sands themselves have preserved. Goldfield, Nevada sits quietly amid the arid landscapes of the western desert, a town that once thrived on the promise of gold. During its heyday, miners and their families flocked to the area, drawn by the chance of striking it rich. Wooden boardwalks lined the streets, saloons rang with laughter, and the clatter of industry echoed from the mines. Today, much of that activity is gone. The streets are silent, buildings weathered and abandoned, and the mines stand as dark gaping wounds in the surrounding hills. Yet, for those who visit, Goldfield feels far from lifeless. Even in the brightness of day, the town carries an air of mystery. Abandoned structures creak under the desert wind, their windows broken or missing entirely. And dust swirls across sun-bleached streets. Shadows stretch unnaturally across facades, hinting at shapes that are no longer human. Visitors often report a lingering sense of being watched, as though the energy of the miners who once toiled here has never left. Footsteps echo softly on the wooden boardwalks, fleeting and deliberate, yet when looked for, no one appears. The abandoned mines add a layer of both history and haunting to the landscape. Narrow shafts and dark tunnels hint at lives spent in darkness, laboring for the glint of gold. Cold drafts emanate from these old openings, brushing against the skin even on the hottest days. Some visitors have described sudden chills in areas that should be warm and dry, and faint lights flickering where no electrical source exists. These experiences are subtle yet undeniable, creating an atmosphere where the past and present feel intertwined. As the sun begins to set, Goldfield's character changes. The long shadows deepen, blending with the silhouettes of abandoned buildings and rusted machinery. Desert winds sweep through the town, carrying whispers that are almost imperceptible. Many who explore at this time report feeling the presence of figures moving just beyond the corner of vision. Some describe seeing miners in period clothing, bent over tools that no longer exist, their forms dissolving as if they were never there. These fleeting glimpses leave a lasting impression, a sense that the town remembers its own history in ways the living cannot fully explain. Walking through the town at night is a distinctly different experience. Boardwalks creak underfoot, and every gust of wind sounds amplified in the quiet. The abandoned saloons, shops, and homes seem to pulse with the memories of the people who once lived within them. Ghostly footsteps echo down hallways, fading in and out, accompanied by cold drafts that brush unexpectedly across the skin. The desert night brings both silence and subtle sounds, and the mind becomes attuned to every shifting shadow, every distant rattle, as though the town itself is alive with echoes of the past. Ghostly lights have been reported in multiple locations around Goldfield. Some appear near the mine shafts, hovering low and moving slowly, as though inspecting the tunnels. Others are seen flickering in abandoned rooms, casting an ethereal glow over decaying furniture and walls scarred by time. These lights appear without source or explanation, and their appearance is often accompanied by the sense of unseen movement nearby. Witnesses describe a sensation of being guided, or observed, creating a tension between fascination and unease. The history of Goldfield is inseparable from its haunting. Gold fever brought a rush of people and energy to the area. Yet prosperity was fleeting. Fires, mine accidents, and economic downturns left their mark on the town. Lives were lost and livelihoods destroyed. And some believe that the intense emotions of that period imprinted themselves onto the land and structures. This lingering energy may explain the spectral figures, ghostly footsteps, and sudden chills reported by modern visitors. Offering a window into a past that refuses to fade completely. Even in the open desert surrounding the town, traces of history remain. Rusted equipment, broken carts, and scattered tools lie half buried in sand, remnants of daily life that once revolved around extraction and labor. Shadows cast by these objects can take on human shapes in low light, And subtle movements of wind and sand can create illusions that feel intensely real. Visitors often experience moments of reflection, standing quietly in the midst of ruins, sensing that the land itself remembers the people who shaped it. Goldfield's abandoned buildings also hold stories of more intimate human experiences. Old homes echo with the memory of families, children, and domestic life now gone. Doors creak open as if invited, while floors settle with the slightest sound of invisible footsteps. Witnesses often speak of a sense of presence in these spaces, the impression that someone is moving just out of sight, observing, or perhaps reenacting fragments of their past. These interactions are subtle but haunting, blending memory and environment into an immersive experience. Visitors leave Goldfield with a deep sense of the town's dual nature. It is at once a testament to human ambition and a reminder of impermanence. The spectral miners, ghostly lights, and sudden chills are a subtle but constant presence, connecting the present with the past. Every boardwalk, abandoned building, and mine shaft contributes to the town's layered story, creating a location where history is not only remembered but felt. Goldfield is more than a ghost town. It is a living memory. A place where the echoes of labor, hope, and loss persist, whispering to those willing to explore and listen. As night deepens over the desert, the stars illuminate the ruins with a cold, distant light. The wind continues to sweep across the empty streets, carrying echoes of footsteps and faint voices. Goldfield endures, a spectral monument to the gold rush and the lives it shaped. Visitors leave with awe and quiet unease, aware that this abandoned mining town is a place where history, mystery, and the unexplained converge, and where the past remains ever present among the ruins. Bodie, California stands frozen in time, a preserved ghost town nestled high in the eastern Sierra Nevada. Once a bustling gold mining settlement, it now rests under a veil of silence, its streets and buildings a testament to a past filled with ambition, hardship, and sudden tragedy. As the sun dips toward the horizon, the town takes on an ethereal quality. Shadows stretch across the dusty streets, and the remnants of Bodie's homes and shops seem almost alive. Visitors report the sensation of being watched, a subtle presence that follows them as they explore the deserted buildings. Some speak of fleeting figures glimpsed in the corners of their eyes, moving silently among the decayed structures, as if the town itself refuses to let its residents rest. Bodie was a place of extremes. During its boom years, the streets were filled with miners, merchants, and families seeking fortune. Now, only the creaking of old wood and the occasional rustle of desert wildlife breaks the stillness. Yet, even in its emptiness, Bodie holds a palpable energy, a sense that the past is very much present. Some visitors describe hearing faint footsteps echoing along empty hallways, the sound of doors opening and closing without a breeze to explain it. The buildings themselves tell stories of tragedy. Collapsed floors and splintered beams hint at accidents long ago, while the remnants of homes suggest lives interrupted. Apparitions are said to appear in these spaces, where ghostly voices can be heard murmuring names, recounting disputes, or singing the songs of another time. Nightfall intensifies the town's otherworldly atmosphere. The moonlight casts stark contrasts across the wooden facades, highlighting every crack and every faded sign. Shadows shift in ways that defy explanation, and the cold desert air carries whispers that seem almost human. Visitors walking Bodie's streets at night often experience sudden chills, as if unseen eyes are observing their every move. Some swear they have glimpsed miners carrying lanterns, or women and children moving quietly between the buildings, figures that vanish when approached. Bodie's cemetery, perched on a nearby hill, adds to the town's haunting reputation. Weathered headstones mark the graves of those who died young, victims of disease, accidents, and the harsh realities of mining life. A breeze moving through the cemetery carries faint murmurs, and the air is thick with the weight of memory. Many say that the spirits of Bodhi's inhabitants linger, walking both the streets of the town and the hills beyond, a silent reminder of the lives that once animated this rugged landscape. The town's environment itself seems to amplify the supernatural. Dust swirls in the shafts of light, creating shapes that appear almost human. Every sound, every movement can feel amplified, making visitors hyper-aware of their surroundings and open to experiences they cannot fully explain. Despite the haunting, there is a solemn beauty to Bodhi. The town's preservation allows visitors to step directly into history. To see how life unfolded during the gold rush. And to sense the struggles and hopes of those who lived and died here. Each creaking floorboard, each fading sign, and each empty room serves as a window into the past. Making the presence of spirits seem not only possible but inevitable. The buildings, though decayed, retain the character of a community that thrived briefly in a harsh and unforgiving environment. Each creaking floorboard, each fading sign, and each empty room serves as a window into the past, making the presence of spirits seem not only possible but inevitable. Bodhi is not merely a place of ghost stories. It is a landscape of memory, where history and the supernatural intertwine. Visitors often describe a sense of connection to the past, a feeling that the town remembers them even as they explore its streets. The apparitions, the whispers, and the fleeting shadows are all part of the narrative, an immersive experience that allows the living to feel the lives of the departed, if only for a moment. During quiet evenings, the town becomes a theater of the unseen. Lantern-lit figures of miners, merchants, and families are said to reappear, moving through buildings or along the streets as if caught in a loop of their daily routines. The wind carries voices, laughter, and murmurs that evoke the bustle of a community long gone. Each encounter is subtle, often fleeting, yet it leaves an impression that lingers, a testament to the enduring presence of Bodhi's past. The town, a theater of the unseen, is a place where the past and present converge. Even in daylight, the ghostly essence of Bodhi is undeniable. The bright sun casts long shadows and highlights the textures of weathered wood and rusting metal. The town is both beautiful and melancholic, a place where every corner, every structure, seems to hold the memory of lives that once were. Visitors often feel the brush of something unseen, a reminder that Bodhi's history is not only preserved in its physical structures but also in the spirits that continue to inhabit it. Bodhi, California remains one of the most evocative ghost towns in the United States. Its streets, buildings, and surrounding landscape offer a cinematic experience that blends history with the supernatural. For those who walk its deserted avenues, the town provides more than visual fascination. It offers a connection to the past, a chance to sense the presence of those who lived, worked, and died within its limits. Bodhi is a place where time stands still, where the past is never truly gone. Where the echoes of its inhabitants continue to wander, haunting the streets. And whispering their stories to anyone who listens. A living memory, a place where the spirits of miners, merchants, and families linger among the weathered structures. A haunting yet beautiful reminder that even in abandonment, life once thrived here, and its essence continues to walk silently among the shadows. Rhyolite train tracks, stretching across the desolate Nevada desert, are remnants of a once thriving mining town that rose and fell with the promise of gold. The tracks, now twisted and broken in places, cut a lonely path through the arid landscape, leading to a town that time seems to have forgotten. By day, the sun beats down on the rusted rails and weathered ties, casting long shadows across the sand. By night, the tracks take on an entirely different presence, one that has drawn countless stories of ghostly encounters and unexplained phenomena. Visitors often report a sense of unease as they approach the tracks after dark. The desert, usually silent, becomes filled with the faintest hints of movement and sound. Some describe seeing figures walking along the rails, their forms shadowy and indistinct, fading into the night as if the darkness itself swallows them. The figures are said to resemble railroad workers, clad in the attire of a bygone era, their presence a lingering imprint of the labor and lives dedicated to building and maintaining the rails. The history of Rhyolite and its train tracks is intertwined with the hopes and hardships of those who settled the area during the mining boom. Workers labored long hours in extreme heat, facing danger with each load of ore transported. Many perished in accidents or succumbed to the harsh desert conditions, leaving behind stories that have been carried through time. Some believe the spirits of these workers remain tied to the tracks, replaying their endless journeys and unfinished labors in a spectral echo of the past. The tracks themselves tell stories even without the presence of apparitions. Rusted rails rise and fall over uneven ground, wooden ties splintered and worn by decades of exposure. Desert winds whip through the gaps, creating a sound not unlike the creaking of a train car. In the stillness of the night, every small noise is amplified, and the imagination conjures movements where none exist. Those sensitive to the paranormal report sudden chills, the feeling of being watched, and a presence that cannot be explained by natural causes. The feeling of being watched is palpable, a creeping sense of dread that seeps into the soul. Along the path, old signal posts lean at odd angles, their metal rusted and glass long shattered. Some visitors claim to see faint lights flicker along the tracks, appearing and vanishing without source. These lights are said to resemble lanterns carried by the workers of old, guiding them through the darkness of the night. Others have reported hearing the distant echo of hammers and tools striking metal, as if construction and repair continue in a realm unseen. The surrounding desert amplifies the sense of isolation. Stretching endlessly in every direction, it creates a space where the human mind becomes acutely aware of every sound and shadow. The desert is both beautiful and haunting, with the setting sun painting the landscape in colors that fade into an inky blackness. In this darkness, the tracks become a pathway to the unknown, and every step taken along them carries the weight of history and the possibility of the supernatural. Some of the most compelling stories come from those who linger near the tracks long enough to witness strange occurrences. Travelers report seeing figures appear on the tracks, often just beyond the reach of their vision, moving with purpose yet vanishing when approached. Shadows are seen among the ties, and shapes flicker across the desert floor as if caught between dimensions. The air is said to grow colder in certain areas, and an inexplicable tension fills the atmosphere, as though the past is pressing against the present. Even during the day, the tracks seem to hum with a quiet energy. Sunlight glints off rusted rails, revealing textures worn by decades of exposure. Loose stones and sand cover parts of the ties, giving the appearance that the tracks have been reclaimed by the desert. Those who visit during daylight hours often feel a lingering presence, a subtle awareness that the area is not entirely empty. The history of labor, danger, and loss seems to cling to the rails, creating a resonance that can be felt even without visual confirmation of spirits. Rhyolite train tracks are a reminder of both human endeavor and human fragility. The laborers who once walked these rails, carrying ore and supplies through unforgiving conditions, left an indelible mark on the land. Their energy, some believe, remains embedded in the tracks, creating a bridge between past and present. Those who experience the tracks at night often describe a sensation of being part of a story larger than themselves, a connection to lives that once pulsed with effort and determination. For modern visitors, walking the Rhyolite train tracks is a journey into history and legend. Each step taken along the rails is a step into the desert's memory, where the echoes of labor, ambition, and loss intertwine with the supernatural. The desert air, the rusted rails, and the shadowy figures combine to create a cinematic experience. One that leaves a lasting impression on all who venture into this abandoned corner of Nevada. In the end, Rhyolite train tracks are more than remnants of a mining town. They are a testament to human perseverance and a stage for stories that transcend time. The figures that appear at night, the sounds that echo in the darkness, and the whispers carried by the wind all serve as reminders that the past never truly leaves. The tracks remain, stretching across the desert, a silent witness to history, and a haunting presence for those who dare to explore them after the sun has set. The Shoshone Desert stretches across the eastern edge of California, an expanse of sand, rock, and sun-scorched earth that seems to go on endlessly. The land is stark and unforgiving, yet hauntingly beautiful, with windswept valleys and rugged terrain that have long drawn travelers and adventurers seeking both solitude and challenge. Beneath its vast skies, the desert holds a quiet energy, one that whispers of those who came before and of stories that refuse to fade entirely. Visitors to the Shoshone Desert often describe a sense of being watched, a subtle awareness of other presences in the emptiness. Ghostly travelers are said to appear along the sand-swept paths, figures that seem to move with purpose yet vanish when approached. Some are glimpsed in fleeting moments, distant shapes on the horizon that disappear as the sun shifts across the sky. Others appear closer, their outlines just perceptible in the corner of vision, leaving a lingering impression that the desert is far from empty. Whispers are carried across the valleys by the relentless wind. These murmurs are faint at first, barely perceptible, but grow distinct enough that visitors can sometimes discern individual words or names. The source is elusive, as if the desert itself speaks through the echoes of history, reminding those who listen that the land is alive with memory. It is a sensation that cannot be easily explained. A delicate tension between imagination and experience that heightens every step taken in the isolation of the desert. The desert's natural features contribute to its enigmatic atmosphere. Shifting dunes, jagged rock formations, and deep gullies create spaces where light and shadow mingle, producing illusions that play tricks on the mind. In these areas, the line between reality and apparition becomes thin. Shapes appear at the edges of vision, sometimes fleeting, sometimes more deliberate, as though caught between the material world and another realm entirely. The history of the Shoshone Desert is one of both hardship and endurance. Travelers crossing this land have faced extreme heat, sudden storms, and treacherous terrain. Many have vanished, leaving behind only traces of their passage, whether footprints, abandoned belongings, or stories passed down through generations. Some believe that the spirits of these travelers remain, bound to the land that claimed them, wandering silently and observing those who now walk the paths they once trod. Nightfall transforms the desert into a realm of heightened mystery. The temperature drops sharply, and the vast openness seems more pronounced under a sky filled with stars. Shadows deepen, and every movement in the distance is magnified. Figures appear and disappear along remote trails. Whispers grow more distinct in the wind, and a subtle sense of presence pervades the air. The desert feels alive with unseen activity, a silent reminder of its enduring mysteries. Old mining routes and abandoned homesteads add layers to the desert's spectral reputation. Rusting equipment, crumbling foundations, and deserted cabins hint at lives once lived and struggles endured. Visitors have reported cold spots, fleeting shadows, and unusual sounds in these locations, as if the echoes of the past continue to resonate in the empty spaces. Each of these remnants tells a story, quietly reinforcing the sense that the desert remembers those who have passed through it. The wind is constant, sweeping across the valleys and creating both beauty and unease. It carries the scent of sand and dry earth, the faint rustle of unseen movement, and sometimes, the distant sound of voices. These whispers are often described as calling names or murmuring fragments of conversation. Fleeting but insistent, leaving a subtle impression that something or something is present even when no living person is in sight. Travelers who experience these phenomena often describe a mix of awe and apprehension. The desert's vastness and isolation amplify every sensation, transforming ordinary encounters into deeply personal experiences. The combination of harsh beauty, historical tragedy, and persistent reports of the supernatural gives the Shoshone Desert a unique energy. One that captivates the imagination and challenges the senses. Throughout the day, the desert seems silent and empty. Yet every ridge, dune, and valley carries the memory of past travelers. Shadows shift in the corners of vision. Phantom shapes move along the horizon, and the wind continues to carry whispers that may belong to those who never completed their journeys. The land itself seems to hold these stories, preserving them in the ever-changing patterns of sand and stone. The Shoshone Desert is a place of contrasts, simultaneously beautiful and haunting. Its open spaces invite exploration, yet its history and spectral reputation remind visitors that the desert is far from empty. Ghostly travelers, whispered voices, and fleeting apparitions serve as a reminder that the land retains the presence of those who have passed before, leaving a mark that cannot be erased. Every visitor who ventures into the Shoshone Desert leaves with a sense of having encountered something beyond the ordinary. Whether glimpsing a distant figure, hearing an unexplained whisper, or feeling the subtle weight of unseen eyes, the experience lingers long after the desert has been left behind. The Shoshone Desert remains a place where the past and present coexist, where the wind carries memories, and where the unexplained continues to stir the imagination, inviting all who enter to witness the mysteries held in its vast, silent expanse. Amboy, California rests silently along a forgotten stretch of Route 66, a town that once thrived amid the desert heat and the steady hum of travelers passing through. Its streets are now empty, buildings standing as weathered monuments to a time when the road brought life and commerce to this isolated corner of the Mojave. The sun beats down during the day, casting harsh shadows across cracked pavement and peeling paint, but as night falls, Amboy takes on a different character. Darkness transforms the town into a place where memory and legend intertwine, and where the ordinary becomes infused with the mysterious. Travelers who pass through at dusk often describe an eerie sensation as the town grows quiet. The faint hum of the desert wind carries across the empty streets, and the silhouettes of abandoned buildings stretch long and distorted in the fading light. Some claim to see figures standing at the edges of the road. Ghostly hitchhikers who appear suddenly, motionless and watchful. When approached, these figures vanish, leaving nothing but the lingering impression that someone has been waiting along the roadside for decades, frozen in time. The buildings themselves add to the haunting atmosphere. Old gas stations, a shuttered diner, and a few remaining motels lean under the weight of years. Windows are broken or clouded, doors hang unevenly, and the faded paint hints at a vibrancy that has long disappeared. Inside these structures, shadows move unexpectedly. Footsteps echo across empty floors, soft but deliberate, while faint lights flicker where no electrical source remains. Visitors often pause, feeling a presence in spaces that have been abandoned for decades. A reminder that the town remembers the lives once lived within its walls. Night in Amboy amplifies the sense of isolation and unease. The wind whistles through gaps in walls and along rooftops, creating echoes that resemble whispers or distant conversations, flickering in the distance as though illuminating an invisible figure, leaving witnesses with a mixture of fascination and apprehension. The town's history is inseparable from its haunting. Amboy once thrived as a stop along the iconic Route 66. A place where travelers sought gas, food, and rest before continuing their journeys. The decline of the highway and the rise of interstate travel left the town desolate, its population dwindling until only remnants of its past remained. It is in this desolation that stories of the supernatural take hold. The echo of travelers, the shadows of those who once walked the streets, and the lingering energy of daily life all seem to persist, manifesting in fleeting glimpses and unexplained sounds. All seem to persist, manifesting in fleeting glimpses and unexplained sounds. Visitors to Amboy often recount experiences that blend the natural and the unexplained. A sudden chill can sweep across the open desert street, carrying with it the feeling of being observed. Soft footsteps may follow along the cracked pavement, yet when turned toward, no one is present. Even the smallest sounds, a shutter rattling in the wind, a door creaking, take on a spectral quality in the stillness of night. The town seems to invite attention, drawing the senses toward every subtle detail and encouraging a heightened awareness of the environment. The open desert surrounding Amboy intensifies these phenomena. Dunes and rocky outcrops stretch for miles. And the interplay of shadows and moonlight can create shapes that appear distinctly human. The sparse vegetation sways gently in the breeze. Yet in the darkness, these movements can be mistaken for figures moving just beyond sight. Travelers often find themselves straining to detect shapes and sounds. Their imagination merging with reality in a way that makes the town feel alive, even in abandonment. Abandoned vehicles and relics of Route 66 life add further to the town's spectral character. Rusted cars sit half buried in sand, their forms distorted by time, while signage leans precariously against walls, its paint faded and peeling. Rusted cars sit half buried in sand, their forms distorted by time, while signage leans precariously against walls, its paint faded and peeling. Rusted cars sit half buried in sand, their forms distorted by time, while signage leans precariously against walls, its paint faded and peeling. Lights from distant vehicles or passing stars reflect off these surfaces, creating fleeting illusions that suggest motion where none exists. Rusted cars sit half buried in sand, their forms distorted by time, while signage leans precariously against walls, its paint faded and peeling. Lights from distant vehicles or passing stars reflect off these surfaces, creating fleeting illusions that suggest motion where none exists. Witnesses often describe the sense of being watched, of a presence that moves quietly through the streets, observing, waiting, or perhaps replaying fragments of life long past. The combination of history, isolation, and unexplained phenomena makes Amboy a uniquely immersive experience. Every building, street, and shadow holds a story. The town is more than a relic of Route 66. It is a living memory, a place where echoes of travelers and residents linger in subtle ways. Visitors leave with an awareness that Amboy's energy is palpable, that the past is not completely gone. And that the desert itself seems to preserve the presence of those who once made this town a stop along their journey. As night deepens, Amboy stands quietly under a star-filled sky, a town where time seems to pause and the past whispers softly to those who listen. Phantom lights flicker along empty streets, shadows stretch across abandoned walls, and the desert wind carries the faintest echo of footsteps. Amboy endures as both a symbol of Route 66 history and a place where the line between the living and the spectral feels almost imperceptibly thin. A place where the line between the living and the spectral feels almost imperceptibly thin. It is a town that invites exploration, reflection, and a deep appreciation for the enduring mysteries that linger in the quiet corners of the world. The quiet corners of the world. Tecopa, California lies hidden in the Mojave Desert, a place of scorching heat, rugged landscapes, and mineral-rich hot springs that have drawn visitors for generations. Once a bustling retreat for those seeking relief and recreation, the area now holds a quiet, haunting presence. The desert stretches endlessly, punctuated by abandoned bathhouses and weathered structures that hint at stories long past, their walls absorbing the whispers of history and the echoes of lives once lived. As the sun sets over the desert, Tecopa takes on an eerie, almost otherworldly atmosphere. Shadows lengthen across the sand and tumbleweed-strewn roads, while the empty hot spring pools shimmer with the last remnants of daylight. Visitors often report an unexplainable chill in the air. Despite the desert heat, a sensation that something unseen is watching from the edges of the old bathhouses and along the winding desert paths. Visitors often report an unexplainable chill in the air despite the desert heat, a sensation that something unseen is watching from the edges of the old bathhouses and along the winding desert paths. The abandoned hot springs themselves hold a spectral allure. Time has worn the wood and stone structures, leaving them fragile and ghost-like. Some claim to see figures moving near the pools, silhouettes that vanish when approached. These apparitions are described as past visitors, those who came seeking solace and relaxation, now forever imprinted in the space they once inhabited. Children, too, are said to appear, their laughter faint and haunting, echoing across the deserted grounds before fading into silence. At night, Tecopa becomes a theater of shadows and whispers. The desert wind sweeps through the hot springs, creating sounds that resemble quiet conversations or the shuffle of footsteps along gravel paths. The reflection of moonlight on the water adds to the illusion of movement, and those who wander the area often feel the sensation of being accompanied by unseen presences. Some report seeing fleeting shapes darting behind crumbling walls or along the edges of the pools, figures that seem to belong to another time, another era of laughter and leisure. The history of Tecopa contributes to its haunted reputation. Early settlers and visitors were drawn to the natural springs for health and recreation, building bathhouses and modest lodgings. Over time, many of these structures fell into disuse, leaving behind an eerie landscape of wooden planks and stone foundations. Those who walk the grounds today often feel the weight of memories, as if the energy of the past still lingers in the air, tangible and almost alive. Visitors describe a wide range of experiences, from cold gusts and sudden changes in temperature to glimpses of shadows that appear briefly before disappearing. Some feel a presence near the pools, a comforting yet melancholic sensation, as if the spirits of those who once came to Tecopa remain drawn to the place that once brought them joy. The spectral children are particularly evocative, appearing to play along the edges of water or chasing each other in fleeting glimpses, their energy a stark contrast to the stillness of the desert night. Even during the day, Tecopa retains a sense of mystery. The harsh sun illuminates the desert in a way that highlights the textures of abandoned buildings, cracked concrete, and peeling paint. These remnants of human activity seem to hold stories within them, as if the spirits of visitors past are etched into the very surfaces. The wind carries with it faint, indistinct sounds, moments that can be interpreted as whispers, laughter, or sighs from another time, blending seamlessly with the natural rhythm of the desert. Exploring Tecopa, one cannot help but sense a connection between the living and the past. The desolation is not merely emptiness but a space where the boundary between present and history feels thin. Apparitions serve as reminders that life once thrived here, and though the bathhouses are abandoned and the pools dry, the energy of those who walk these grounds persists. Some travelers speak of seeing figures in period clothing, their faces blurred and indistinct, or catching glimpses of children playing near the water before vanishing without a trace. The haunting of Tecopa is subtle yet persistent. The desert landscape amplifies this effect, isolating visitors and heightening their awareness of every sound, shadow, and movement. Each step across the sand, each glance toward the old bathhouses, carries the possibility of encountering something that straddles the line between the living and the spectral. Tecopa offers a unique kind of haunting, one that blends history, memory, and the natural environment into a singular, immersive experience. The spirits here are tied to the joy, relaxation, and leisure of the past. Yet they are forever entwined with the solitude and stark beauty of the desert. Walking among the ruins of Tecopa, hearing faint laughter, or catching a glimpse of a shadowy figure can evoke a profound sense of connection to those who came before. A reminder that even in abandonment, human presence can linger in the most unexpected ways. The desert night deepens, and Tecopa becomes a place where past and present intertwine seamlessly. Visitors report walking among the ruins with a feeling that the land itself remembers the people who sought its healing waters. The children who played along the edges of pools, and the visitors who once found solace in the hot springs. The stories, sightings, and sensations create an atmosphere that is at once haunting and beautiful, drawing those who dare to explore into a realm where history breathes and spirits linger, waiting silently for anyone willing to witness them. Tecopa, California is a haunting that is gentle yet persistent, a desert memory etched into the landscape and carried by the wind. Its abandoned baths and desert terrain are not just relics but portals to another time. Inhabited by the echoes of laughter, the faintest whispers, and the fleeting presence of spectral children. And the spirits of Tecopa continue to wander silently among the ruins. The Trona pinnacles rise abruptly from the arid desert floor, a collection of thousands of tufa spires reaching skyward like ancient sentinels. The landscape is otherworldly, with jagged rock formations scattered across a barren plain, bathed in the harsh sunlight of the day. By twilight, the desert transforms, and shadows stretch long across the sand, creating shapes that seem almost alive. The pinnacles have long been a source of fascination, not only for their geological rarity but also for the mysterious energy that surrounds them. Visitors to the pinnacles often describe an uncanny sensation as they wander among the spires. The desert is silent, save for the whispering wind that threads between the rocks, carrying with it a sense of isolation and timelessness. Some report seeing figures moving through the formations at dusk, ghostly shapes that vanish when approached. These apparitions are said to resemble travelers, pioneers, or explorers from eras long past, their presence a fleeting reminder of the human stories intertwined with the harsh desert. The history of the area is as stark as its landscape. Long before modern roads and highways, the desert was traversed by native peoples. And later by settlers and miners, all of whom faced extreme conditions. The spires themselves, formed over thousands of years through the deposition of minerals in ancient lakebeds, stand as silent witnesses to the passage of time and the lives that have intersected with this desolate terrain. Some believe that the energy of those who have perished or struggled in the surrounding desert lingers among the pinnacles, manifesting in shadowy forms and unexplained movements. At twilight, the pinnacles are especially haunting. The setting sun paints the rocks in hues of deep orange and crimson, casting elongated shadows that move with the shifting light. It is during these hours that the ghostly figures are most often reported. Travelers describe a sense of being watched, a prickling awareness that they are not alone. Cold gusts of wind rise unexpectedly, brushing across the skin even on the warmest days, and faint sounds of movement echo from between the rocks. Some claim to hear footsteps following them along narrow paths, only to find no one is there. The terrain of the pinnacles contributes to the eerie atmosphere. Narrow passages wind between towering spires, creating pockets of shadow and light. Visitors navigating these corridors report sudden disorientation, as the uniform shapes of the rocks can obscure perception and distort distance. The desert seems alive, as if the spires themselves are observing and interacting with those who venture among them. The combination of natural beauty and subtle menace creates an immersive experience, one that lingers long after leaving the desert floor. Even during the day, the pinnacles evoke a sense of mystery. Rocks that appear solid from a distance are often riddled with crevices, caves, and hollows where shadows gather. Some explorers report glimpses of movement in these hidden spaces, a flicker of form that disappears when investigated. The phenomena are never aggressive or threatening, but they are enough to unsettle, to remind visitors that the pinnacles exist in a realm where history, nature, and the unexplained converge. The desert air carries an intensity that amplifies perception. Sounds are carried across long distances, and small movements catch the eye. A flutter of wind through a crevice can resemble a passing figure. And the shifting light of the setting sun can transform ordinary shadows into humanoid shapes. Many who return to the pinnacles describe an enduring impression. A feeling that the desert is inhabited by more than the present. That echoes of the past linger and sometimes reach into the present moment. Stories of ghostly figures at the pinnacles are often personal and anecdotal, yet they share common themes. Some speak of hearing faint voices carried on the wind, whispers that fade as quickly as they are heard. Others report seeing glowing lights or shapes that move with a purpose, as though retracing steps once taken by those who lived and labored in the surrounding desert long ago. The combination of geological wonder and the unknown has made the Trona Pinnacles a destination for both scientific study and ghostly curiosity. Photographers, hikers, and paranormal enthusiasts alike are drawn to the area, each seeking a different experience. Some document the formations with cameras and drones, capturing the stark beauty of the spires against the desert sky. Others come in search of encounters with the unexplained, hoping to witness the spectral travelers that are said to emerge at twilight. For those who wander among the spires, the experience is both humbling and captivating. The desert stretches endlessly in all directions, and the pinnacles rise abruptly from the sand, creating a surreal landscape that feels almost suspended in time. The stories of ghostly figures, whispering winds, and cold gusts contribute to a sense of timelessness, as if the desert itself is a living memory. Visitors leave with more than photographs, they carry the impression of having walked in a space where the boundary between the natural and the supernatural is thin and permeable. Visitors leave with more than photographs, they carry the impression of having walked in a space where the boundary between the natural and the supernatural is thin and permeable. The Trona Pinnacles are a testament to the power of nature and the enduring intrigue of the unexplained. The towering spires, shaped over millennia, have witnessed countless generations pass through the desert. And the stories of ghostly figures ensure that their legacy continues. As twilight deepens and the shadows lengthen, the desert transforms once again into a place of mystery and wonder. The pinnacles stand as silent sentinels, guardians of history, witnesses to human curiosity, and keepers of secrets that may never be fully understood. The Rhyolite gold mines of Nevada stand as silent monuments to a bygone era of ambition, labor, and tragedy. Nestled amid the arid expanse of the desert, the abandoned mining shafts and crumbling structures evoke both awe and unease. By day, the ruins are stark and sun-bleached, their skeletal remains whispering of a time when the clatter of tools and the voices of miners filled the air. By night, however, the mines take on a different character, one that suggests the past is far from silent. Visitors to Rhyolite speak of sudden noises that break the desert stillness. The clanging of metal, the faint echoes of footsteps, and the distant murmur of voices seem to come from the depths of the earth itself. These sounds are often reported near the old mining shafts, where shadows stretch unnaturally across the ground, and where the faint glow of strange lights has been observed. The desert wind carries them. Yet they feel almost deliberate, as if the mines themselves are speaking in echoes of the past. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena. Glimpsed at the edge of vision, they appear and vanish with an eerie fluidity. Some visitors describe them as moving with purpose, tracing the old paths and tunnels once used by the miners. Others seem to linger in the open spaces around the ruins, their outlines sometimes illuminated by the moon or by the flicker of an unseen light. The figures are often described as wearing the clothing of the early 20th century miners, lending a spectral authenticity to the sightings that is difficult to dismiss. The history of the Rhyolite gold mines is inseparable from the stories of those who worked there. Many miners faced dangerous conditions, unstable shafts, and sudden cave-ins. Accidents were common, and lives were lost beneath the unforgiving desert terrain. Local lore holds that some spirits never left, bound to the places where their labor and lives ended. When the night falls and the desert cools, the presence of these former workers seems more tangible, as though they are still completing unfinished tasks or wandering the shafts in search of safety that can no longer be found. Lights that appear in the darkness add another layer of mystery. Small, flickering glows have been seen at entrances to tunnels, along the remnants of mining equipment, and sometimes drifting across the desert floor. These lights move in ways that defy explanation, sometimes appearing to react to the presence of visitors. They are rarely bright, often dim and ethereal, yet they cast enough illumination to suggest movement where there should be none. The combination of sound, shadow, and light creates an atmosphere of tension and anticipation, making each step through the ruins feel weighted with history and unseen attention. The mines themselves are labyrinthine, with shafts that descend into darkness, and structures that lean precariously against the passage of time. Venturing near these areas, visitors often experience an acute awareness of isolation. Every creak, every gust of wind, and every shifting shadow is amplified in the quiet, creating a sense that the desert and the mines are alive with unseen activity. A reminder of the power of memory and the enduring imprint of human endeavor. Accounts of unusual physical sensations are also common. Cold spots are reported in areas that should be warm under the desert sky. And some visitors feel sudden drafts in enclosed spaces. Others describe a sense of being watched, an invisible presence that follows them along the old paths and across the open ruins. These experiences contribute to the overall atmosphere, enhancing the sense that the Rhyolite gold mines are more than abandoned structures. They are spaces where the past persists and interacts with the present. Even during daylight, the mines can be haunting. The skeletal remains of equipment, decaying wood, and eroded walls create shadows that shift with the movement of the sun. Visitors often report feeling a sense of anticipation or unease, as if the desert itself is holding its breath. The quiet is deceptive, for the history embedded in these ruins seems to awaken when night approaches, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. Those who explore the Rhyolite gold mines often leave with vivid memories. The combination of landscape, history, and unexplained phenomena creates an immersive experience that lingers long after departure. Sightings of ghostly figures, the sounds of phantom labor, and the flicker of unexplained lights become part of the personal narrative of the visitor. A story intertwined with the broader history of the mines themselves. The desert surrounding Rhyolite amplifies the sense of isolation and mystery. The vast open space, the jagged hills, and the endless sky create an environment where the mind is acutely aware of every sound and movement. This heightened perception makes the presence of the spectral even more pronounced. Shadows that might be ignored elsewhere are suddenly full of suggestion. And the faintest noise carries significance, making each visit an encounter with both the history and the lingering spirits of the place. Rhyolite is a testament to the fragility and endurance of human endeavor. Its ruins tell stories of ambition, risk, and tragedy. While the reports of ghostly phenomena suggest that the memories of the past remain active and present. Whether it is the flicker of a light in the night, the sound of a phantom tool, or the outline of a miner disappearing into darkness, the experience is visceral, cinematic, and unforgettable. For those who walk its paths, the Rhyolite gold mines are more than a destination, they are an encounter with history. They are an encounter with history, memory, and the unexplained. The mines speak in whispers, shadows, and light, inviting all who enter to witness the lingering presence of the past. To feel the weight of lives once lived, and to experience a landscape where human stories are etched permanently into the desert. Both in stone and in spirit. Deserts are vast, lonely, and beautiful, but these haunted locations remind us that isolation can also attract the restless dead. Every shadow, whisper, and unexplained light is a reminder that the past lingers where we least expect it. Next time you travel through the desert, remember these haunted sites. Would you dare to explore an abandoned mine or walk an empty highway at night, knowing spirits may be watching from the shadows? Some deserts offer more than sand and tuna. They hold stories, tragedies, and encounters with the unknown that will haunt you long after you leave.